Swinburne University of Technology.
Thank you, John. Thanks everyone for giving up your precious lunchtime to come and listen to what I have to say. Just a quick bit of background about myself. I am a former academic, but I have worked in the IT industry. I decided to move back out of academic work into IT and bring my education experience together to build this product. So this product has been designed and developed here in Australia. Bit of background, where am I from? I can kind of put all the major cities down as somewhere I've called home. So I can say that I've been everywhere, including the lovely Melbourne. I did my PhD here at Deakin University. I did my Research Masters at ANU, and I did my MBA at Macquarie. Interestingly, I don't have an undergraduate degree. So I'm one of those mature age people who came in and got bitten by the education bug and decided to stay. Anyway, this product came out of my understanding. My discipline background is primarily business management. So it came out of my interaction with undergraduate students and their difficulties with writing. But what I wanted to do first is just quickly get a bit of a gauge of the disciplines that we have in the room. So if you could just let me know what your primary field of research or discipline or teaching area is. What do we have?
Information systems.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Psychology.
Psychology.
Library support.
Library.
Learning and teaching.
And
I think that's student
student.
support.
Right. Yep. Sorry.
Student advancement, so
Uh-huh.
linguistics.
Anything else of interest? No? Okay. Let me ask some of the people who are actually doing writing themselves or providing advice, what primary referencing styles are you using? Just so that I know what we're using here in the room.
APA 6 there.
APA? Chicago? Parenthetical or footnote?
16, well,
In text?
yeah, it depends on what I'm writing.
Right, okay. Harvard? Anything else? No? Okay.
Soon to be legal citation style. Australian.
The legal, Australian AGLC? Yep. Cool. Excellent. Okay, that just gives me a bit of context so that I can try and answer some questions regarding those rather than talk about things that aren't to do with that. So I'm just going to do a little bit of, we've just done that, a little bit of background on what this is all about. When we ask our students through our student experience, we look at these 5 areas. But primarily, as you all would understand and agree, skill development is what students come to university for. They want to learn things, they want to build their skills. And in doing so, they have to undertake assessment. So assessment work is related to skill development, and everything that we provide, all the resources, all the teaching support, all the teaching, everything is in that aim to help the students improve their skills. So assessment work is many and varied, as we all know, but written assessment work is still the predominant mode. The problem is, though, with written assessment is that we are providing very little by way of tools to help students with academic writing. Academic writing, as you know, involves more than just typing away on a word processor. You're researching in the library, managing all your resources data, collaborating with others, certainly structuring a story or an argument, formatting to those academic standards, and then providing the output to either a teacher or a supervisor. So academic writing is a very complex process, and currently all the tools we have are fragmented and primarily they're pretty old. Microsoft Word is 22 years old. EndNote is 17 years old. Neither were designed to be cloud-based. They have recently been doing some engineering to sort of move it back onto the, or put it on the cloud. but very limited. So we've got a stack of databases in the library, we've got a range of bibliographic tools. All those have to be plugged into a Microsoft Word predominantly. Students are using Facebook to collaborate. Others are just sending versions of their documents around in email, right? And there's not a lot around to help us structure our story. So it's a pretty fragmented process. Students, as we know, are just in time, classify themselves as just in time. Assignment's got to be handed in tomorrow, I'll do it tonight. So they, come in, and then this whole complex area of trying to pull it all together is extremely difficult. So their primary task of doing assessment work, written assessment work, and we are providing not a great deal of technical support for it. We have help sheets in terms of styles. There are obviously some bibliographic tools. If those styles, like Harvard, is okay, you can usually cut and paste from Harvard somewhere and things like that. But otherwise it's importing, exporting, or learning complex tools like EndNote or even Zotero. So what we're trying to do with ComWriter is create a single platform, a single environment where that entire gamut of processes can be found, so that a student can come into the environment in one place and manage everything they need to do. We have an online library. I'll just give you a quick Cook's tour and then we'll go in a bit deeper. We have the library. We have projects. We don't call them documents, we're calling them projects, because a document is what you might output or hand to somebody. At the moment it's about working on a project and working in that environment. You can see I've got 2 projects there. I've called it My First Project and a Quick Start Guide. We've got templates, we've got styles. Now the primary thing to understand about ComWriter, where is it different to a lot of other word processors, because it is at its heart a word processor and a bibliographic tool. Where it differs is that what we have done is we have removed all the formatting. So we've gotten rid of formatting. Now if you're familiar with tools like EndNote or Zotero as a style sheet, right, the style and the templates that are contained in those are for the references only. Our style contains the templates for references, but it also contains the rules for all your text. So your headers, your footers, your paragraphs, your lists, everything like that. And what we have is we can write without having to think about formatting. So I've gotten rid of formatting. Right? So don't think about formatting, concentrate and focus on your writing. And then when you want to format, you grab the style, APA, Harvard or AGLC, and you click an export button, and as we export, we format. So let's just explain that a little bit deeper. When we use Word and we might do some images and we put image captions in, and then we move those images around, problem number 1, the labelling of all the images is problematic. And you have to go through each one and update it. We can move images around to our heart's content and it doesn't matter because we haven't actually numbered them yet. Right? They get numbered as we go out. The same with headers and footers and page numbering and all the formatting. So then all your formatting will be consistent. So I'll come back to the styles, that's why I just wanted to briefly understand that here. So this is an export to PDF and an export to Word. And you can see here is this one is styled using APA and this one here currently is set to use Harvard. And if I want to change that, I simply go to my settings and change it. So I could change this project to now export in Harvard instead of APA, or I could change it to AGLC and it would export. If I've got footnotes, that would make sense. If it didn't, it wouldn't make sense. There. So let's just go over to the library first, because what students should be doing is doing their research work first. And we've given you a little handout there on best practice for undergraduates. So I'll be referring to that a little bit. What we have in our library is we've got My Library and we have a public library. So my library is where all my reference data is contained, and the public library is where you can source data from our databases that we have access to. Our screen is a little bit tender, so this is just to do with the overhead projector here, not with ComWriter, so I hope you'll bear with me. We've got active project, our 2 active projects show up here, and I've got groups. So I can put all my references into, associate references with a project or associate them with a group, or put them into a group, or put them into both. Right? So I've got a number of resources here. So the Principles of Psychology, for example, by James. I could go over here and I could say, I want to add that to my first project. And then we'll see that then, that'll be right. First thing you show. Or did I put it into my publications? There. Oh no, there's 2. Must have had 1. So we've got 2 references now associated with that project. If I want to add a new group, and this is one of the things that we recommend for students, is to create a group called textbooks. So we've now got that here. So let's say that, you know, General Systems Idea was a textbook that I had. I could add it to that group. What that means is it's easy for you to find. Right? So you could do that in a number of ways. Academics might make groups, my publications or favourites or things like that. The public library, currently we have access to WorldCat. WorldCat has 2 billion library records, and we also have Wikipedia. Now I know we probably don't like to encourage students to use Wikipedia, but if they are going to use it, then the least they can do is reference it correctly. So all we have to do is look here, and we've got Swinburne's Wikipedia page, and then I can add that to, I might add that into my textbooks, and I might even add it into my first project. Oops. And yeah, where to go? Okay. That'll be right. Got a problem. We'll go there. It's always when you're doing a demonstration, standing here and looking there, it can be a bit hard sometimes. So in the public library, what I'll do is I'll also do a search in WorldCat. Let's just say we're looking for a marketing textbook. And Philip Cotter always comes up first, but you can see we've got 667,000 records. So I can then add that to my project, and it has worked. It's been added into the project. So I immediately have my bibliography there, and I can export that bibliography at that point in time. So whether I want to export the bibliography for a group or for a project, I can do that here. So our public library and my library allows us to work on our resources. You can see here that we can import resources. You can import from EndNote, from Zotero. You can import a RIS file. So if you export it from the library to a RIS file, you can then import that into ComWriter. And we can add resources. I'm going to very briefly have a look at that. Now, where this product differs from EndNote and Zotero in terms of bibliographic management is, in fact, in terms of our referencing. The referencing we have in EndNote has 53 reference types, and Zotero has 36. Essentially what we have is 120 different reference types, and we have some other little features that actually takes that up to 360. Which means that we can be much more accurate. So we don't have a reference type called electronic book. We just have book. Is it an online book? Is it a hard copy book? And then you can decide what sort of format it might be, a Kindle format, a PDF format, or something like that. Right? So we have a two-tiered structure here. So if we look at books, And we have a range of books there, particularly in terms of volumes and book volumes, and also in terms of journal articles. We have a range of things like journal article forthcoming is important for academics, and a number of these referenced right across the different spectrum, specifically APA, in terms of different types. If we look at an article, we've got the journal article, we've got a range of descriptions there. We can put the contributors in, we can put the organisation. So I could just write, and you can never type right when people are watching you. And you've got your publication identifiers, and there's the source, hard copy, online, or from a database, right? And we can set that. We've got a range of notes that we can use here to add things, and we can also add a number of files, so that you can in fact use the environment to store all your information. Oops, never mind. Click that one. Sorry?
Oh, no, sorry.
Our best practice for students is to put your textbooks in right up front, put anything in your reading list right up front, and then it's there in the environment and nice and handy for you to use. And then of course you can then do your searching online. We will be adding other databases like Crossref. Crossref is a database that has 70 million journal articles in. That's coming shortly, and then we'll be working through other databases. So this public library environment is going to grow and grow in terms of allowing students to look for a host of things and store their own items. So there's a little tutorial video there on how to build a bibliography.
We're trying to reference material that's not in the catalogue.
You just use the add resource form. So you decide what it is. It might be a book that you've got that wasn't in the catalogue. You can just add it yourself. Right? So if you can't find it in the public library, you can just go and add it using that add form. Right? And all the labels that we've put on the forms, little examples at times beside the label, so that it gives the student and us a bit of clue as to what we're meant to be putting in there, like format, what's that? E.g. Kindle, I think it's E.g. PDF ebook, right? Because sometimes it's really hard to know what these labels actually mean. And we do change the labels depending on the reference type, and continuing to get feedback around that.
With the import resources, could a unit convene a lecturer, create a bibliography, create a group, and make that accessible to the students who are enrolled in their class?
Currently, no, but excellent idea, and yes, I've had that on my mind as well. And that's where this group function, yes, being able to share groups. So for example, you could put a bibliography together as a group and then share the group. Yep. So the product's only been out for a few months, so that's why we're really excited to be here, because we know you guys are pretty innovative, and would love to work with you even more to get these ideas and build them in and help us prioritise where we go with the product. Okay, I'm going to move on. I'll just briefly go over to templates. And, oh dear, no templates. Well, I haven't got any in this account because that's my templates, but I can go into the public. So there's a public environment in the templates, and it's as simple as clicking that little button, and it has now been added to my templates. The same with the styles. My styles, none there. Public styles, here they are here. Right at the top is the AGLC because it starts with A. And I can just, whoops, I opened it. I'll come back to showing what that looks like. And just click that, and it's now my styles. So when I start projects, I don't have to look at this big long list of styles that I don't need. I only get to look at the list of what's been put into my styles. Okay? So that's basically, I've selected I need to use APA, or if it was Harvard, I could also click Harvard as well.
Whose version of Harvard is it?
If we go down, we've got a couple. Everyone's got a version of Harvard. that particular one, you might call that Linda Glassop version, kind of a standard version, if I could put it that way. We do have the Summers version of Harvard, Summers and Smith, which is used by University of Sunshine Coast. We do have the AGPS version, which is Snooks, and that's Uni SA tend to be the holders of that, and that one is used by a lot of universities as well. Right? We are happy, as it says there, need a style, click support and request it. So custom styles, we can customise styles, and that's reasonably easy. In terms of referencing, it's probably easier for you to get us to do the customising of it rather than yourself, because with 120 reference types, that's a lot of templates to deal with. Okay? But the customising, of course, allows you to customise your headings and stuff, and we'll come back to that in a second. So new styles. So in public, we don't have a huge number in public, but we do have the biggies. Right, so you can see we've got Chicago, we've got IEEE, MHRA, we've got MLA, Chicago. This is a new one, this is a biblical one that we've been working on, and we've got Tarabian and Vancouver. So we've got all the main styles, and a lot of other styles tend to be derivatives of those. In fact, a lot of styles tend to be derivatives of Chicago, believe it or not, which makes it easier for us to get a head start. We will, again, over time be working for journals and things like that, and again, that's clicking support, and that's the support button right there, and that gives you access to our forums and to help sheets and to registering a ticket if you've got an issue or a problem. Currently our chat is offline, but normally it's open between 9 AM and 9 PM. Okay, so let's go to projects. So before I move on, do we have any more questions around templates or the use of templates or the need for templates or styles? Okay. All right, so we've got a project here. I'm actually just going to open this one up rather than start a new one, and you can see that's set to use APA. It doesn't actually have a word count in it. It was created by the support desk, and it's giving a version. You can see this one, version 2682. What that means is that that's been updated 2682 times, right? And we are saving projects when you open them automatically every 30 seconds so that you don't lose anything. You can also manually save. When you manually save, it creates a new version, right? So, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. We've also here got a little prompt. So if you put a due date in your project, the ones that are due over the next 30 days will list here. And I simply click on that and it opens up into our writing editor. Now I just want to highlight a few things first off in our writing editor. We have a background template here. Most writing projects will have a cover, they'll have some preliminaries, they have the body and they have things at the back. Right, so we've actually set that as a background template to try and keep it nice and structured and orderly. And it is literally just a background template, it doesn't do anything except keep things organised and structured. And you can see here I've got this section collapse, and what that means is a section is a grouping tool. What we're using here, and these are writing objects. So it's a little like a little box. So we're writing into a box. I click return and I get a new paragraph. So it allows me to write like I would normally write, and I can add them here. So I can add a list, numbered lists, and various other things. The idea about using these writing objects is that a couple of things. Firstly, I can pick them up and I can move them around. So if we go, oh, actually that sentence would be better off, or that paragraph will be better off over here, right? So I can move things around. So that means it's a bit easier than cutting and pasting when sometimes you leave half of the sentence behind, and you can then actually move stuff around. The other thing about that is, remember when I said we're exporting, when we export the style marries up with the written text. It marries up based on these writing objects. So it'll format heading 1 different to heading 2, it'll format the paragraph different to the quote, and it'll format differently depending on whether it's in the body or in the preliminaries or in the addenda, based on the rules that have been set up. Currently, the rules that we've put into our styles, not every style owner tells you what their standard is. APA is an exception, AGLC is also an exception, where they do tell you what they want for their headings and various other things. What we've done with everything else is we've taken a kind of a traditional sort of academic approach, Times New Roman, double line spacing, 12-point font. Right? So we've set them all up in that manner, unless of course the style actually stipulates how they would like the headings. Okay, so what we have here is a heading, so I can put in here my heading. I can hit return. This is my sentence, and I want to do an in-text citation on that. I go over to my insert menu and click cite a resource. I'll just explain what we've got here. We can do a cross-reference. So for example, if you're cross-referencing to a figure, see figure 3, right? Footnote, a URL symbol and, link and a symbol. I'll just do cite a resource. So let's pick that General Systems Theory textbook. And what I've got here is something called pinpoint, and my friend here from AGLC will recognise that word because that's where I pinched it from. It's a lovely word. What it means is you're pinpointing the reference, right? So the reference is on that page, or it might be on a page span. You can also add something in front, so see, for example, you know, Glassop 2002, what have you, or put something at the end. You can include the author in text, and if you need to do some spelling change on it, you can do that as well. And then we insert that into our, I put it in with the author in text, and it shows there. And to edit that, I just simply click on it. It tells me what my features are that I've put on my reference, and I can edit it. And indeed, on this one here, I can add another one. So that's for in-text citations. Let's just do a page span. And you can see we've got the double reference there. So both of those will be encased in the same set of brackets. I can add an image. And when we add an image, it adds it just as a basic icon. The nice part about that is often you know you need an image, but you don't have it yet. So you can actually bookmark it by just putting it there. And when you've added your images into your resources, you can then add it later. The same with URLs. So all your URLs, all your images, everything can go into the resources in your library and be stored there and utilised. What we have down the back here again is a heading, and I might put my bibliography. I did do a PhD. I do know how to spell it. There we go. Yeah, nearly there. I'll just move along. Add a small. Come back to my PhD thesis and I'll say something about that. So I can add. What a smart list is, it's just a name for a list. So a smart list is that there. It's a table of contents, it's a list of images, it's an endnote list, or it's a reference list. And because what we want you to do in here is just identify what list you want. So at the moment I'm going to put references in, and I want to do a bibliography as opposed to my cited references. And I've put what we called as a smart list marker. And that's it, done. My bibliography is done. Right? Well, it's done as far as of my work in my library. If it's been added to the bibliography for that project, it will now come out. If it hasn't been added to the project bibliography in my library, it won't come out. But it's as simple as that. And what that is a marker. So same for table of contents, list of images, is tell us where you want it. Mark the spot. Because when we export the project, the style comes together. When it gets to that point, it'll put the bibliography right there. It'll put the table of contents right there. And it'll put it exactly where you want it based on the formatting rules that are contained in the style sheet. Is that clear? Any questions? And again, because that is something that you can move around, you can move that around. And we can collapse that. So you can collapse that and open it and expand it. The same in a section. So a section is a grouping tool. So I actually can change the label from that. I can put this as, maybe this is my intro. I can put that in there, and then I can collapse that and then start off on the next part of my essay. And what that means is you don't have to trawl down through large slabs of text to get to the next bit that you're actually working on. If you're writing something complex like a PhD thesis, you can in fact have the whole PhD thesis or even a honours thesis in a single project file. Right? We have in fact put my PhD thesis into ComWriter as a test document, 300 pages, 569 references. We like to load them up, don't we, when we write our own? All gone in there, and I can export that in 1 minute, 15 seconds. All right, 300 pages. Everything's formatted. I can change the format and it'll all come out in another format, right, without any drama.
So that's avoiding things like word bloat with big files and things like that, is it?
Well, it's basically saying that you,
Plain text.
it's sitting in there. It's where you can export to PDF and we can export to Word, right? So we're not exporting to plain text, we're exporting to Word, right? So let me just explain these icons up here. We have the save changes, so that's actually saving a new version because every 30 seconds that little save changes and it's saving it by itself. We can access the history. So I can in fact load up a previous version and have a look at it. So if you deleted a paragraph and you want it back again, you can go find it. We can export to save as a new project, so it's a save as. We can export as a template. So what exporting as a template means, it means keeping all this outline here. But we can also keep some text. So you can in fact save something as a template with some text in it. Right? If I was writing my own journal articles, I might save something with my biography in it, for example. Right? My first project that I have is the templates, actually has a little bit of text in the paragraphs so that it explains. I'll open one up to show you. And so that's the export to PDF and export to Word. And over here we've got turn the spell checker on, and it'll probably tell me my bibliography. I've got a spelling mistake. And there's a little button there for Grammarly. And that's just about getting Grammarly. Grammarly works, if those of you are familiar with Grammarly, it's a pretty awesome grammar and referencing, spell checking tool. It is available for a free version to use in web browsers. And with ComWriter being web-based, that means we can use the free version of Grammarly to our heart's content. And so it's pretty easy to get students that can get taken by that link over to their site to add that in, and then they can open up an account, the free account, and work away. You can see down here you've got the number of words in your body. That little button there is the cog that opens up the settings for the project. And if I was starting off a brand new project, this is how I set my settings. The brand new project has another piece in there called template, because you can start off with a template. I can select that. Now if I wanted to, I could just change that to Harvard right now. And that project would now export in Harvard. So it's as easy as that to change style. And yes, we do have Australian English, and and a couple of others. I won't change anything there. And we have a customise button. So when we open up a style, this is what we find. We find all these different aspects around the style and formatting attributes. And these marry up with what's under the add button here. We've got our headings, our lists, our paragraphs and quotes, header, footer, the image, captions, and the references and the smart lists in terms of like your table of contents and things like that, and some global settings for page numbering. And all of those can be customised. Right? So to export to, this is why I needed my computer, because I had some samples on my computer, which I don't have right here. Oops. We had to swap from using my computer to using this one here. I'm going to go back to here. There's not much content in there, so I'm just going to export this one so you can very quickly see what some output looks like.
Could you show us a source for that one too, so we can see what it looks like with all the paragraphs for the user guide?
Oh yes, certainly. And it just puts it into your downloads, and so there is a document that, it is now a document with some figures and a table of contents, all formatted. I'll just scoot down the back. Don't think there's much of a, there's not a bibliography in that. So there's just a whole bunch of other stuff. The nice thing is about the, let me go back, page numbering. Preliminaries have been done with Roman numerals. So it's already there, all nice. So
if you export to Word and use some of Word's formatting, can you then import it back in?
no, no. Because we don't know, well, word formatting is done in a host of different ways by the millions of different users. Being able to translate that to import it back into our software is way too difficult at this point in time. To give an example of that, if any of you are familiar with the presentation tool called Prezi, Prezi at a point in their evolution did do an import from PowerPoint. It took them about $1.5 million to create that. For something like PowerPoint. I suspect that that's probably the price tag it'll be for us. So at some point down the track that might be something that gets done, but not until I've got an investor with a spare $1.5 million. And we've got a few other priorities like groups and things like that that we would like to look at.
What about just for text changes?
Text changes, yeah, just to do to minor editing would be fine.
You can import it.
No, you can't bring it back. The point, there's actually no point in bringing it back because it's not going to be formatted in our editor anyway. Because our editor doesn't format. It formats when it exits.
Was that based on feedback? So if it was a drafting process and someone's providing feedback,
Yep.
then the adjustment would have to be made within ComWriter by the...
Yeah. Yeah, so you just come back and usually that...
So you have to be looking at it in Word, say if the feedback was electronic, and then make
If the feedback was electronic on Word, yes, yeah. Then you could just bring that feedback, and it's usually to do with structure rather than format. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In terms of your argument's not very good, you need a reference here, it's an assertion, etc. Sometimes it might be about referencing, but you're not going to have any problems with referencing. Okay. We also do have on our roadmap for doing in-text, doing commenting online. Okay, so what we have here is just to show you that user guide. So here are a number of different aspects. So you can see this could be my introduction to my essay or my conclusion and a number of sections. So you can structure those all that way. So that was what someone wanted to have a little look at. And if I just go to templates, I'll actually open up a public template. which I've got one here called My First Project, that actually has a bit more structure to it, right? So that's a nice essay structure, so probably a little bit more advanced. So you've got a section with a heading and paragraph, and that's all that's in there. So that kind of gives somebody a bit of a kickstart. So that's in there. And you can see it's a little bit blue, and there is a dotted line around it, because what I'm doing here is I'm editing the template, so I can easily edit the template to add that back. Okay.
If you edit the template, does it just become a copy of your template, or does it go to the public templates?
Only if you've put it in public. You can't edit somebody else's public template, right? So if I've put a template into public, you can then save it as your own. You can save it as my template, or use it as a project, right? And then you can edit that. You can create a template and you can add the template to public, right? So.
Just wondering if someone could overwrite your template.
No.
Right.
No.
There lies disaster.
Yes. No. If you own it and put it in public, then it's safe. It's safe. And we've done that particularly for the styles. Right, so in the styles in public, if you open a public style, you can open it and have a look at it, and you might think you're changing something, but you're not, because there's no save button up the top. Right? There's only a save as. Right? So if you want to change the style, you'll have to save it as to customise it. Okay? You can actually share styles with other people. So you can even share them with us in the support desk, so that we can, if you've got a problem with it, we can help you edit it or customise it, or learn how to customise it and fix it up. Or there might be a team you're working with and you want to work on something together, and you can customise that. We've got a library group at one institution, and they've got a main library account, and a couple of the librarians have shared from that, and they're supporting the development of the templates and managing their copy of Harvard Snooks, to call it their one.
So does the ComWriter library have access to, say, Swinburne's library subscriptions?
Currently, no. No. That is...
You'd have to save it as a RIS file.
You'd have to save it, yes. You can search through Swinburne's library and export as you would to go to EndNote or to Zotero, and export as a RIS file, and then you can import that RIS file. Right?
Print the attachments?
Yep, if you can export with the attachments, you can import with the attachments. Yeah.
So you can store your full text?
You can. And it'll open it up. We don't have any PDF editing tools at this stage. As I said, the ongoing plan is to do that. So let's just move along. We've done all of that. Our goal is to have happy students, right? Ones that aren't feeling angst with their assignments, where all the clutter has kind of gone away and everything is now at their fingertips, so that they can do everything to do with their academic writing in the one single environment. We've got a number of students. Let me just explain a couple of these. Ali is an architecture student, needed to change from footnotes to endnotes, and asked if I had any trick to do that, because I've been helping her with her image captions, and all she had to do was put in a smart list, and bingo, they'd moved from footnotes to endnotes, and she was over the moon. Christy, hey, it does anything better than I could have done in Word. Rachel, actually interesting, she's a design student, she's at UTS, she goes giving me a longer quote. Rachel came through pathway program, so she actually did a bit of academic writing tutorial training before she started her degree. But some interesting things here, some freedom to just insert and not worry. Eliminate the referencing phobia that she had about what referencing was. Made it a bit easier to fill in the blanks, and most importantly took away some stress. And her grades have gone from credit to high distinction. Now ComWriter's not trying to take all the credit for that. I'm sure Rachel herself has done a lot of hard work. But we do know that about 20% of assignment marks usually get associated with formatting and referencing, and the fact is that students can get help with tools like this. And if they were using other tools, they could get help with that. This one just makes it a bit easier to have it all there, all in one place where I can write as well. So what we're trying to do is we're working on writing and improving writing proficiency so that students can take that assessment worry off their shoulders and get on with thinking about good content. Right? And have the worry of trying to find everything taken away and all be in that one place. The student experience surveys, hopefully this is the way they'll look at the end of the day. Teachers might give more helpful comments if referencing gets solved and formatting gets solved. I know as an academic myself, looking at poor referencing and poor writing, really, it's hard to then be positive with the student when you get so many of them, 2,000 first-year management students, and trying to give positive comments all the time when some of the fundamentals aren't there. Learner engagement, feeling prepared, a tool that actually supports academic writing, not just any old word processor or a word processor, but specifically designed for academic writing work. So that's ComWriter. Yep.
Look, I want to jump in here.
Yes.
I think I'm surprised someone hasn't done this a long time ago, because this rings to me from coming from an IT background of an old tool called LaTeX with Bibliotech, where you would do a similar thing. You'd focus on the writing and you'd put in some style markup and then you'd run it with formatting and you could easily change it. And it's essentially what you're doing, but obviously yours is much more supported with tools and web interface and things like that. And so I think this is way beyond time that someone actually produced this sort of tool. So I give you full credit for that. That's,
Thank you.
It's very innovative, and I'm really, really surprised that with all these high-tech companies in Silicon Valley, no one's done this yet, and you have. So full kudos for that.
Yeah, the kind of the fear of Word.
Yeah, it's bizarre that no one's done it before. So you have, so good.
Thank you.
And this referencing thing you bring up is a big thing, because students don't get referencing. It's an arcane academic thing that they don't come across anywhere else, and it really does their head in. And to have them actually go through this process and see how the mechanics of it and how it comes out in the end and how it should work will be a huge boost, I think, to students understanding referencing and how it should be used and what the point of it is.
Yes.
And it is a major sticking point. So
most definitely. I mean, Rachel was in one of the first focus groups that I ran, and as she was, learning the tool, you could see the mind going, and she said, so I could go to the library, and as I'm doing my research and looking for stuff, I can put it into ComWriter, and when I get home it'll still be there, and I can use it for my essays. And I said, yes. And you could see, and as an academic you go, that's the way you're supposed to do research, right? But the tools aren't there to support that process, right? Like putting all, some of the other things on the undergraduate best practices. You start off the semester, you've got 10 assignments over the semester across your 4 subjects or whatever it is, put them all in as a project, and there's the list. You could put all the textbooks in, you could put all the reading lists in, bang, you've already got bibliographic stuff happening, right? As you're hearing about stuff for each lecture, often there's, references in the lecture notes, things like that. You can be adding them in, building up your library, working on it. Right? Anyway, there's more ideas there. Group work, yes.
Working on shared documents.
Yeah, exactly. I had hoped to have that available for the start of semester. It is under development. Unfortunately, it's not quite ready. But yes, it is most definitely on the platform. It's probably about 80–90% developed. And then once we've got the ability to write, then there's notes and in-text comments and things like that. To-do lists. Yeah.
What's the time frame on the journal database integration?
You mean doing styles for journals? The Crossref. Yeah, by the end of March. Yeah. Cost? Well, there is a version that's free for undergraduates. Clara and I will be discussing. But there is a version that's free for undergraduates. There is a free version ongoing, as well as a special for education. So you can go on now. It says there's a 2-week trial, but the free version, of course, remains free. Some limitations with that: you can't access your history on the free version, and you can only export to PDF.
Storage space. So you were taking over cloud storage for resources that people.
Yeah, we've made.
Is that open to other platforms that people are committed to? So Dropbox, iCloud, all of those other things.
The storage is based on. We don't set a storage limit. You can bring as many references in as you like, but it will be associated with what plan you're on. Right? So as an academic or faculty member, you'd probably want the unlimited plan, and then you can bring on as much as you like. Research, so there's a free plan, starter pack, student plan, researcher plan, and faculty plan. We haven't done things like gigabytes; they're too hard to work out. Yep. And so we do have online help and help sheets as well, and happy to work with the enterprise in developing other resources that might be required.
So Linda, with the trial, people just go online, did you say that?
Yep, you just go online now, sign up, and open up an account and have a play. Yep. Any questions, just hit the support button, and you can, you might get me or somebody else, but you will be happy to keep you moving and answer any questions. And if you need to be upgraded to have a look at the features, yeah, just let me know. If you're using your Swinburne email, then obviously I'll know who you are, and happy to do that on a trial basis.
Did anyone else have any questions for Linda?
I didn't go into the style editing and customising, because that's a whole other story. And it's not terribly complex. Stay away from referencing. No one wants to do referencing anyway. It's not terribly difficult when you want to change a heading or a paragraph. But as anyone who's played around with EndNote templates knows, the templates can be complex.
Yes.
Because you might end up with your full stop in the wrong place. And believe me, my full stops are all in the right place. I've had a lot of attention to that. And you know, the beauty of the referencing that we've done, I mean, law, there are reference types that are not available in EndNote or Zotero, right? I've got a lot of interest. I know you guys don't necessarily teach theology. We've got a lot of interest from theology people, because they can't do anything using EndNote and Zotero. You can't reference a sermon the way they want the reference done, right? So there's a lot of difficulties with that. And there are for a number of others, just even journal forthcoming for academics. Undergraduates, yeah, you got your main ones, but what about if this piece of data's missing, or if it's just this nuance, right? With a journal, you know, spring versus issue 3 in APA can throw everything into havoc, right? We've actually got the routine working. It'll interrogate the data, and if you've got summer in there, right, versus an issue number, it'll be referenced correctly. Right? So some little things like that that just make that accuracy level just that much better for those of us that are concerned. I put my PhD thesis in, as I said, oh, pretty bad, you know, and I got it passed. You know, so in fact, it would have, you know, it wasn't Harvard and it wasn't APA, it was some strange hybrid I had, right? Anyway, it was a consistent hybrid, so it got through. Oh, we've got a little survey there, just a quick thing if you wouldn't mind. Just a couple of little questions and answers, and any other things like the group idea, any other things that you might have thought of as you were listening. And we're here for a bit more if you've got any more questions. Thank you for giving up your lunchtime and coming along. There's some forms here and business cards if you want that. Thank you.
This has been a Swinburne production.